Welcome into the CHGO Blackhawks Postgame Podcast presented by DraftKings Sportsbook, America's top-rated sportsbook. Download the app and use promo code CHGO when you sign up. Thanks for joining us. I'm Jay Zawaski here with Mario Tirabassi. The Hawks have lost their 7th game in a row, 5-3 to the St. Louis Blues at the United Center. And with the loss, the Blackhawks move to the top of the tank standings. We're going to break down the game as we always do. Greg Boysen's going to join us from the UC a little bit later on. But first, make sure you smash that like button on YouTube. Make sure you are subscribed to our YouTube channel. Make sure on your favorite podcast app or apps you are subscribed to us or following us, and leave us a 5-star review. And we hope you completed yesterday's homework assignment where you sent a favorite episode to a friend. And if you missed yesterday's show, you're going to want to go back and check it out. We talked to Kevin Korchinski and Colton Dock and Nolan Allen. It was a really good conversation.
Big Al.
All my fears about technological failures were unfounded. It went great. They were really good interview subjects. So if you missed yesterday's, go back and check it out. But this is the post-game show, so we're going to talk about the game that happened. And rinse, repeat. It's a game where the Hawks played hard and just didn't win in the end. It's basically what we've seen. I got to say, though, after the last game where the effort wasn't there and we had sort of said, okay, maybe this is the point where the Hawks have really mailed it in and they just sort of realized, all right, we're done here. There's nothing more to fight for. The response in this game was solid. Yeah. They came out, they played hard, they competed till the very end. Game got off to a really slow start, and then everything sort of picked up as the game went on. No complaints here. You know, ultimately, you don't pick up 2 points. You play hard. You make the game entertaining. The players that count looked pretty good, so you take it.
Last couple of games have been tremendous tank wins. The 7-game losing streak, it sucks, but it's kind of why we're all here at this point of the season. And, you know, you've seen enough from the guys that you are hoping to see good things from. And yeah, like you said, like the effort was there tonight. They were chasing the once the floodgates finally opened about 15 minutes into the game, where shots on goal were non-existent, the Blackhawks were controlling a lot of the offense up into a point in the first period, and then they were kind of chasing the game, chasing the Blues kind of the rest of the way there. But yeah, the effort was there. I feel like Lukas Reichel had another decent showing tonight. A guy that we're getting to see basically a year apart in the NHL, Alex Vlasic. He's looking like, you know, things are paying off in the development path that he has taken and that most prospects, it seems like, are going to take under Kyle Davidson with the Blackhawks. Is that, you know, you might get a few tastes of the NHL here, but your development is going to happen in juniors or in college or in primarily in Rockford. So I think Vlasic had another solid effort. And a guy we're going to talk a little bit more about throughout the night, Tyler Johnson. Like, I don't know how many more times we can praise him for, like, he has come in, and when he's been on the ice, he has been super effective. And he's one of these guys that is just like on a team that is set up to lose. Like, he is one of the guys that is just like, still screw that. Like, I'm still going out there trying to compete. Like, he's still with the Lightning.
He's, diving to keep pucks in. He's doing everything it takes to win games. Yeah. And look, even in a season that ultimately the games at the NHL level don't really matter. Like, there's some guys you're trying to develop and some veterans you want to play well because they're here for a long time, like Seth Jones. But Tyler Johnson treats, what is this, game 75? He treats game 75 like it's game 1. Yeah. Right? Like, there's no difference in the way he plays. And I think you can never have too many players like that, especially when you're talking about having a young team. It's not so young right now, but with Vlasic here and with Reichel here, being around a guy like Tyler Johnson, now that Taves hasn't been around for a few weeks and maybe he comes back, we don't know. Patrick Kane gets traded, Max Domi gets traded. So the veteran leaders you had, they're not as available. Now it's basically Tyler Johnson, Seth Jones, and Connor Murphy. right?
Yeah.
Are like the three guys that are really kind of leaders on this team. And Tyler Johnson seems to me to be the most vocal and the guy who you can really see on the ice doing everything it takes to win. And the dude's a two-time Cup champion, and it shows. Like, that's, he's a guy with skins on the wall, and I think when you see him playing that hard, this is what we used to say about Jonathan Toews, right? Mm-hmm. No one can come into the Hawks and say, I'm not going to work hard, because the highest paid player on the team and the biggest name on the team is the guy working the hardest.
Yeah.
And I think that matters. That really makes a difference.
Yeah.
When your leaders are playing as hard as and your highest paid guys are playing the hardest, no one on this team can look around and say, well, I'm not going to. If Tyler Johnson's trying, everyone's got to try.
Yeah, it's an example to follow. And this is a guy that after the game on Tuesday night, we talked to him in the locker room, and he was just like, yeah, it's cool to score, but it'd be more fun if I scored in a game that mattered.
Yeah.
And you kind of could feel, just in the way he was kind of talking after the game, you could feel like, man, like this season, these last 2 seasons are probably really weighing on him, and like this is a completely different organizational culture that he's been in for his entire career. So good to see him kind of have a game tonight where, again, he's one of the leaders on the ice and making things happen. So really commendable for him, especially at this point in the season. Like you said, like anybody would, have a kind of, we wouldn't get on anyone's case to be like, you know what, they've checked out.
Yeah.
And
it's totally understandable
for the
to
most
do it.
part, 7 games away from the finish line. I think that would be totally fine in our book for this season for guys to start checking out, and most of them haven't. So it's positive to see, and kind of a testament to Luke Richardson and how he's been able to keep this locker room engaged and going. So in a loss tonight, like, you still kind of come away with like, you know what, like this things are still going in the right direction. Even with losses piling up, like that's kind of part of this plan.
Yeah.
So the things are falling into place early on in this rebuilding plan that can roll over into the next season and then beyond, and it's really all that this is all about.
Yeah, that's for sure. And you mentioned young players in this game. Alex Vlasic finished a -2, but 20:49 of ice time. He was second on the team in ice time, behind only Seth Jones, who played 25:54. Seth Jones missed practice this morning, not feeling well. Ended the game with an assist, -1, 3 shots on goal, 3 more shot attempts, a block shot, and a takeaway. So he looked okay. There were a few moments where the puck hopped over his stick.
Yeah.
Some unfortunate plays. But look, Vlasic, one of the not as noticeable in this one, I would say, and maybe it was just because we weren't laser focused on him like we were last game. But just steady, just looks like a different guy. And not that he was bad at the end of last year by any means. I remember, I was thinking about this the other day. We forgot to mention this the other night. Remember Derek King said after like Vlasic's second or third game, like he's not NHL ready. He can't play. Then I don't remember if it was an injury or just whatever. They got him back in the lineup, and he suddenly seemed like kind of a different guy. Now we're seeing him 2 games into this season, and he's really been solid and dependable. And a -2 isn't great, obviously, but for Luke Richardson to lean on him as much as he has since the call-up, that says something. That means that and it's what Luke said the other night. He's done everything he was asked to do. He's grown his game. It's exactly the way we wanted him to grow it when we sent him down to Rockford, and he's being rewarded. And who knows how long he'll be there. I think the other day Luke said maybe the road trip, and then he goes back to Rockford. But, hey, if he's going to play 20, 21, 22 minutes a night while he's up here, I'm all for it.
Yeah, it's worth it. I mean, that's the role that he's been playing in Rockford, and so continue that. Keep his minutes up when he's here, so he can see, like, there's a difference between bringing up young guys and changing their role.
Yeah.
And rather than bringing them up and keeping them in a similar role that they're playing in the AHL. Look at Lucas Reichel. When he was coming up last year, he was playing top minutes in a top 6 role for Rockford, and then he came up to Chicago and he was put in a third line like defensive role. That's not his game. That's not the way to utilize him. So now this season, it was kind of implemented that like if he's coming up, he's going to play in the top 6 because that's what that's the role he should be playing, and that's where he's going to be most effective. So with Vlasic, and we've seen the result with Reichel this season. With Vlasic, it's the same thing. He's been playing, in a top 4 role with the Ice Hogs, playing a lot of significant minutes. So when he's up here, let him do the same thing. Let him see the difference between the AHL and the NHL in the same role.
Yep.
That way he can acclimate his game and see where the growth is coming. If you were to bring up Alex Vlasic and make him play on the third pair and he's only getting 12 minutes, and he's not put into any penalty killing role or anything like that, you're basically hiding him. You're not letting him take the next step. You're sheltering him, and at this point, there's no reason to shelter any of these guys. Let's see what you can do. Like at this point of the year, this is your opportunity to like show what development steps you've taken.
And what's nice is when these young players have been given a stretch to kind of prove themselves, most of them have done pretty well. Like Reichel, to me, maybe he's not scoring every game, but he is consistently the best Blackhawk on the ice.
Yeah.
Like, he's not perfect. He's going to make mistakes. There's going to be those things where he's like, all right, can't do that at this level. Cool. Lesson learned. Like those sort of things, But his speed is obvious. His skill is obvious. And look, you got him on the ice in the last minute. He just misses a goal to tie the game. He looks good. Vlasic looks good. Even like kind of the lesser, younger players that have gotten a look here, they have been pretty solid as the year's gone on. And even like a guy like Caleb Jones, who, last year was kind of in and out of the lineup, under Luke Richardson has become a permanent. He plays every night. Yeah. He is no longer in and out of the lineup. And look, he makes $1 million. He's a bottom pair guy. But as far as bottom pair guys go, he's been pretty damn effective. Yeah. For as much as he's derided by this fan base, I think Caleb Jones has been solid and has grown under Luke Richardson. So it's not just the prospects. There's a lot. There's no one I really look at on this team and say, wow, they've really taken a step down, or they're doing much less than I expected.
No, not. I can't. I couldn't even think of one of any guy that is just like, wow, what a huge disappointment this season. No.
I mean, even like if you like Stalock has been way better than we thought.
Yeah.
Mrazek has been probably better than we thought. Hasn't been great by any means, but he's not been a disaster.
Yeah, it's funny. Like he's as far as I'm aware, I know he was flirting with 900, but as far as I'm aware, without looking at it, he's still sub 900 this year, which is kind of like coming into this year. If you had said at game 75, Peter Mrazek would be a sub 900 save percentage, you'd be like, yeah, of course, like that's what we expect him to be. But it hasn't been the season long, like, shake your head train wreck that I think a lot of people were kind of expecting. Yeah. He's had some really good performances and actually stole a game or two this year. But yeah, I mean, there really hasn't been a guy that you're just like, wow, what a bad year that they had.
The one guy this year who I felt that way about was Boris Kachuk, who is, since the trade deadline, been one of the most effective Blackhawks.
Yeah.
The play he made in this game, Seth Jones tries to chip it through. It gets to the Blues player. Kachuk lifts the stick handles and scores, all from like the equivalent of like the face-off dots into the net. He makes 3 moves in that short span. He's been incredibly effective. So that was really the one guy I was like, okay, well, this guy's, there's nothing here with Kachuk. And then all of a sudden,
turns it on.
He's this different guy. By the way, for the record, he heard you. Mrazek before tonight, .896 save percentage.
Okay.
So
he's still
flirting
below
with 90, but I would imagine still below 90. I haven't done the math of.
Yeah, well, no, he would have.
No, 5 goals. Well, 4
goals.
He gave up 4.
Yeah.
So
no, he's not up there. But yeah, I mean, like, he's been as expected, and the down points weren't the like, he wasn't getting shelled for 8-9 goals and getting pulled and stuff. Like, yeah, there were some bad nights, but that's what we expected when he came in. That's who he was.
Yeah.
Anything above that would have been what Alex Stalock has done this year.
I'm curious if anyone in the chat has anyone that they've seen this year, perform less than expectations. And there's a quote from Tom here in the chat that says Richardson is the key. Caleb Jones and Jared Tenorti are perfect examples of how well he has coached. Nobody wanted them, but they've been adequate. Yeah, like that's a great point. Like Jared Tenorti was a guy who couldn't find a spot in the NHL at all.
Just on waivers.
And look, he's not Bobby Orr, right? But he's a guy that you can trust out there to be effective and not make mistakes and play physically.
He's a very Luke Richardson style defenseman for sure. Like he's going to go out there and just play his game, be physical, and make simple plays. That's all that he needs to do, and he's done that. And he's also off the ice bringing some veteran leadership qualities. He's worn a letter this year. Like that's definitely in the file. So like it's good for him to have that opportunity, and he got it with the Blackhawks, and hey, he might be back next year. Who knows?
And even like talk about a guy like, by the way, talking about the blue lines in this game, Tyler Johnson best, Taylor Radish second. This for the Hawks, by the way. Caleb Jones third.
Yeah,
Boris Kachuk's right there.
Those guys had really good performances.
And other Jason Dickinson was kind of a reject from Vancouver. They gave up a pick to get rid of him.
They needed to shed his contract for whatever reason, and threw in a second round pick and to get Riley Stillman and to get rid of Jason Dickinson, and he's turned out to be just fine.
Yeah,
like there's and yeah, you can say like, well, none of these guys had expectations, so if they don't reach them, it's not actually down like missed expectations. Sure, you could say that, but like some of these at different points of this season, each of these guys have had standout stretches of play, and if they're falling short of expectation, they're kind of just based on just being who they are. So I really don't think there's a guy this year that you can just like you could harp on. Honestly, the player who had the most down year of any Blackhawk really was Patrick Kane. Honestly, based on expectations,
yeah,
like the person who was not meeting expectations the most this season was Patrick Kane up until his final 4 games where he decided, oh, my injury's fine and I'm probably off to New York anyway, so might as well make my put my GAF meter back on, turn it back on, and care a little bit. So
that's crazy. Yeah, you're right about that.
I think. Yeah, I think it's a testament to the guys. It's a testament to Richardson, and I think it's a good sign going into next season where it's likely that the roster is going to be a little bit different, probably a little bit younger, and there will be it's another year focused on development. And
this is Greg standing by. We're going to get to him in a second, and we're going to do our ad reads real quick. But like, I wonder if you ask the players, like, I know losing sucks, and everyone's going to say it sucks, but do you get the vibe that this team is miserable? Do you get the vibe like being in the locker room at practice that they're upset or unhappy or like just get me out of here? I'm so tired of this season.
Yeah,
it doesn't have that feel.
No, and well, most of the guys that I think would have endured that season-long grind were traded. Most of them, maybe if you ask Athanasiou, Murphy, Seth Jones, Tyler Johnson, like if you ask those guys, their answer might be different than like an Entwistle or talking with.
He's got nothing else to live for, so
true. Or talking with guy like Anders Bjork or Austin Wagner, who like
we haven't talked about him.
Great game tonight, like his first game with the team and really showed off an element of speed in his game, which was great to see. Yeah, I don't get the sense this year that the locker room is like a death march to game 82.
Yeah.
It has not felt that way.
It doesn't feel that way at all. All right, Greg is standing by from the UC. Chicago, you've already got the best coverage for your favorite teams here at CHGO, so get fitted out in the best sports gear around. Foco's got you covered from the United Center to the living room, north or south side, with hoodies, slippers, signs, bobbleheads, banana hammocks, and everything in between. Get decked out like Austin Watson with apparel from the leader.
Austin Wagner.
I always say Austin Watson. Who is Austin Watson?
Austin Watson is he's in the Pudwactum.
I even
realm.
paused. I'm like, Watson. No, Wagner. Austin
Austin
well,
Wagner.
Austin Watson, you could get decked out like him too. Like Austin Wagner with apparel for the leader in sports merch and collectibles. FOCO, looking for the perfect gift for the hockey fan in your life. FOCO's got you covered with hoodies to fight that Lake Michigan breeze. Check out FOCO.com or click the link in the description below. For all non-presale items, use the promo code CHGO for 10% off at FOCO.com. FOCO.com. Do it.
And as we mentioned, the Death March to 82.
Yes.
There's only 3 more home games the rest of this season. So your chances of seeing the Blackhawks in person, if you live in Chicago, are starting to dwindle. And you're not going to want to miss the upcoming games. They have one more game this weekend coming up against the New Jersey Devils. And then they go on a 3-game road trip. Then they come back. They play the Minnesota Wild, not this Tuesday, next Tuesday. And then the season finale, Game 82, April 13th against the Philadelphia Flyers. If you want to go to those games, check out Game Time, the hottest new ticketing site that makes it easier than ever to score the best deals on tickets to sporting events, concerts, and shows. Anything you want to go to, Game Time can get you there. You ever dreamed of sitting in a seat you never thought you could, like the 50-yard line or sitting courtside? I saw on Seth Jones's Instagram story that he was courtside for Lakers and Bulls last night. Hopefully no one coughed on him. Maybe that's why he missed morning skate. But anyways, hopefully no one coughs on you if you get your courtside tickets through Game Time. It's possible to get those seats with the Game Time app. They have the biggest last-minute price drops that can be found on the seats you never thought you could buy. You're not going to find a better deal this season on Blackhawks tickets. Opening day, you want to get out to Sox Park or Wrigley Field, get on that Game Time app.
2-0, Chicago.
Yeah.
Boom.
Both teams are headed for 162-0 seasons and a destiny in the World Series. So get your tickets through Game Time, created by the fans for the fans. They also guarantee the lowest prices. If you find a ticket with a lower price on a different website, you can bring it to Game Time, and they will match that. That is how much they care about making sure you get the best deal through them. If you love CHGO, you're going to love Game Time. The best way to support us is by buying your tickets through the link in the description. When you do that, you're going to be joining over 15 million people who have downloaded the Game Time app and have scored the best seats to all your favorite events.
All right, let's go out to the United Center and bring in our buddy, our pal, the very handsome one himself. He might show feet. It's Greg Boysen. What's up, Greg?
It's too cold in here to show feet.
The lower the crowd, the colder it is in the arena, but not a bad crowd tonight.
No, not bad. And it sounds like you are having the start of the problem I had earlier in the year where you're going to say Austin Watson, like I said Ty Domi 300 times before.
Yeah, I don't know why I keep saying Austin Watson. It's driving me crazy. And like, because I know I said it today during, it's just in my head. Wagner, Austin Wagner. I'm just going to say it the whole way home.
Austin Wagner.
Well, let's start with him, though, because we did not get into him in the first segment. Had his debut after his hand almost fell off. We can talk about that in a little bit.
No,
but
we don't have to talk about that.
No, we need to. 11-11 of ice time. 4 shots on goal.
Make a wish.
He was showing off his speed, and that's when they traded for him. That was the element of his game that everyone sort of talked about. And look, it's one game. It's 11 minutes of ice time, but this could be another one of those kind of diamond in the rough kind of players that Kyle Davidson seems to have a knack for finding.
Yeah, maybe. I'm gonna be honest with all of you. I did not know much about Austin Wagner before the trade, and then because of his hand infection, I totally forgot he was a part of this team until he was on morning skate a couple days ago. So today I learned that he actually exists. He has red hair, and he's a very fast skater. Very impressive, like noticeably fast out there. There were a couple plays where he got to the outside, and you're like, oh, okay, that's cool. Yeah, an impressive performance, for a guy that I don't think anybody had any expectations coming into tonight's game. But he was impressive. Good speed. Looks like he's willing to get physical a little bit. Today's game, you got to be fast. So, and Luke said that he's going to try over, and once he gets a couple practices in, because technically Austin Watson has not actually practiced with this team yet. He's had
Wagner.
2 morning skates.
Wagner.
See, now you got me doing it. We're gonna have to get another. We're gonna have to get another jar.
We're gonna need a new jar.
Might need a bucket. Wagner, yes, that guy. Luke Richardson said he's gonna implement him into the penalty kill eventually, because he thinks his speed could be effective not only killing penalties but creating opportunities on there as well. But I caught a little dropped some eaves on a conversation between Troy Murray and Mr. Wagner this morning after morning skate. Troy just introducing himself and welcoming the team, and Troy just said, "Hey, chip and chase. That's all you got to do tonight." And Austin was like, "Yep, keeping it simple." And he mentioned that we talked to him after the game. Mentioned like, "Hey, when it's your first game, you've had no practices. Just play a simple north-south game and see what happens." And that's exactly what he did.
The other thing we discussed before you jumped on was how after the last game, the three of us were sort of saying like, "Hey, it feels like they may have finally checked out. Like after 74 games, we're just like, all right, enough is enough. This is our 6th loss in a row." They weren't competing as hard as we were used to seeing them. Impressed with the bounce back today. Yeah, they lost 5-3, but they were right in it to the last second. Almost tied the game. Lucas Reichel came inches away from tying it and just battled for 60 minutes. A nice response, and I guess that shouldn't be surprising, but I think a lot of us were ready to just sort of say, like, all right, they've finally reached that point of folding the tents here, and they came back with a real solid effort tonight.
Yeah, it definitely a much better effort. The first half of the opening period, it was a little funky there. We had that first 7 minutes without a whistle and without a shot, but then things kind of picked up after that. But I think a lot of that has to do, we were wondering if they had checked out, but games are going to happen like that over 82 game season. Even for Stanley Cup contenders, you're just going to have a game where it's just like, I don't want to be here, and it shows. But I think just with the way the roster is constructed and some of the guys and how they're playing right now, when you look like a guy like Tyler Johnson, who's finally putting together those games where he's been the best player on the ice the last 3-4 games, and you get a guy like Boris Kachuk, who, as much as we've criticized him this season, the last 3-4 weeks, he's been playing his best hockey of his NHL career, and that goal he had tonight was, I didn't think he was capable of that. The stick lift, the soft hands up in close. So you got guys like that. You bring in new guys like Joey Anderson, who's trying to impress for an NHL roster. Austin Wagner. There's excitement. Wyatt Kaiser, Alec Vlasic. You get guys. When you keep bringing in these new faces, there's new excitement, and I think that keeps the team focused.
Go ahead.
Nate says, are we going to get prospect report cards from you guys after the season is over? Well, there is the rebuild report every week, which has all your info about the prospects in it at allchgo.com. Good time to become a member. Lots of new shirts available with the CHGO locker, White Sox, Cubs shirts. Check those out, allchgo.com. And we are going to do, in the offseason, we're going to do player grades.
Yep.
For sure. That's something we will definitely do because we got 5 days of shows to fill all summer. So, yes, we'll certainly be doing player review shows.
Bringing back the feathers. What was Richardson's take on this game? Because I know the last game it was kind of just, they didn't have the legs, they didn't have the response that he wanted to see. What was his response to tonight's game?
Oh, he was much more pleased tonight than he was Tuesday night. Said they played really well, and they were an inch or two away from tying the game there at the end. Said they did everything right except score, and he also said that was the case, for much of that first period too. They had created a lot of chances and just couldn't get the puck in the net for whatever reason. So he was happy with the overall effort. Of course, there were some plays that stuck out that needs to be better. He did mention when we were talking about Boris Kachuk and how confident he's been playing lately. He did mention the play in the first period where he had a shot, a scoring chance set up by Mackenzie Entwistle, and duffed the puck, and he was kind of going back to the bench with his head up in the air, and the puck goes right by him, and the Blues go and get a scoring chance down the other end. So he was laughing about it a little bit, but you could tell that play stuck in his head. We're like, okay, I know you're feeling confident and you've got that scoring touch going, but you can't have a reaction like that while the puck is going down the other end of the ice. So, but overall, Richardson was far more pleased with tonight's effort, and that's understandable. You know, this was the type of game we've talked about all season that we want to see: a competitive game, the team trying hard, and you lose by 2 at the end of the night.
Ben Pope sharing a funny note from the locker room here, saying Taylor Radish was asked about Boris Kachuk, quote, "He just keeps working hard. He's a guy that's battled all year, and he's getting more of an opportunity, and he's really doing well with it. It was a great goal by him tonight." And then Ben Pope says, Kachuk from across the room says, "That was very nice, Taylor." So that's lovely. What a nice moment between the two guys who came together in the Brandon Hagel trade.
Yeah. Well, I mean, those guys have been teammates for well before their professional careers. So
yeah, I don't think I don't think he knew he was sitting on the other side of the room waiting for his turn with the media, and then after he gave him the compliment, Taylor was like, "I was just kidding. He's not that good of a guy," and then walked to the back.
Yeah, see, I mean, that goes to what we were saying before. Like, it does not seem like this locker room is feeling well, this has been such a shit season.
Yeah.
And we're all in bad moods. Like, these guys they're still cracking jokes with each other. They're still together playing for each other as a team, which is fantastic to see.
I think part of that too, and I think we've done a really good job of giving Luke Richardson credit all year, but I also think part of that is these guys aren't getting new b-holes torn after every loss, right? Luke Richardson's not going in there screaming and yelling and telling them they suck and pulling a John Tortorella on the team. He has been really level-headed and really logical, and even when he's been critical of somebody, it's been what we call like the slap and tickle, right? Like, oh, we won't be doing that again. But then it's not like the guy's not benched for a week or plays 5 minutes a night. Like, it's make a mistake, learn from it, and let's move on. Mm-hmm. And I think when you've got solid leadership, which even, with Taves healthy, Kane, Domi there for, like, when they were all there, cool. And now with those guys gone, we talked about it to start the show. Tyler Johnson, Connor Murphy, those guys showing leadership. The whole combination has made this, for the team with now the worst, points percentage in the National Hockey League, to still be feeling pretty good about themselves. And I think, honestly, like, fans that have been paying attention, people that have been here with us, night in and night out, I think the vibes around the hockey part of the team, we could talk about the off-ice stuff all we want, the management decisions, whatever, but like in terms of the hockey operations, Kyle Davidson, Luke Richardson, how things look on the ice, I think most people feel pretty positively about the Blackhawks. Even this year, the expectations were they suck. But damn it, most nights they're giving you everything they've got, and what more can you ask for? And I think it is such a reflection on Richardson and the leadership. And I think, too, and I'm looking forward to, like, when the season's over and we get that long day to kind of talk to everybody, the makeup of this coaching staff, I think, means a lot, too. You've got 4 guys that played in the league. None of them were superstars, right? All of them were good, long-time, respected NHL players, but none of them were studs. None of them were perennial all-stars. They also have different personalities. Luke is kind of serious. You got Derek King cracking jokes. I just think that this whole thing is well designed for what they're trying to do. And because of how well it's gone so far, I can't wait to see how it's going to look when this team's ready to compete again. I'm really excited to see what the staff can do with some better players.
Yeah, absolutely. And, it's kind of crazy to say stuff like that and mean it when you say, hey, they got the worst record in the league, but I'm really pleased at how their season's gone, and not being like a smart ass saying, hey, the tank is working. No, I think there were some questions that needed to be answered over the course of this season towards the future, and one of them was, is Luke Richardson just a placeholder coach until they get good and they bring in Joel Quenneville Part 2? Or is he the guy that's going to lead them through the rebuild and beyond? And I don't think there were a lot of people that have said, even in our chat, the beginning of the year, they didn't know, they didn't trust him, and now they're like, yeah, this is the real thing here. We got ourselves our coach of the future, and that's a big deal. And that's a guy that can now know that, hey, I'm here for the foreseeable future, and I can build my culture because I'm not worried about it not coming to fruition. And that's a big step. And we're seeing development to some of the key prospects that needed to make a jump this year. We're seeing that, and guys like Lucas Reichel, obviously Alex Vlasic has made progression, and and then now next year it's going to be guys, like Wyatt Kaiser, like Isaac Phillips, to start taking those next steps as we bring in more and more young guys. So yeah, I think for year one of a complete teardown and rebuild, last offseason we said it was to get to ground zero. It wasn't even year one. It was just get back to the ground floor, tear down, get through the rubble. But now there's a real solid foundation in place right here, behind the bench, in the front office, in the prospect system. I think we've got ourselves a good foundation that's only going to get added to this July and then next July. And then, hey, look at that. Summer 2024, the summer of Kyle, when we've got all this cap space to go after an elite free agent class. This may not be as painful and take as long as we thought. I mean, there's plenty of growing pains still ahead, and there's going to be some disappointments. There's going to be guys that aren't going to hit their potential, but there are going to be other guys that we maybe didn't expect that all of a sudden become NHL players. So this is exciting. This is the year to really get into it, get in on the ground floor, start seeing these young kids from day one, and then when you get that payoff at the end, hopefully, it feels even like you're even more of a part of it because you've been there since day one.
Yeah, that's. Absolutely. I mean, Kyle Davidson said it. Hop on the ride because at the end it's going to be worth it. And we don't know if that's correct. We don't know if they're going to win Stanley Cup, with this new core group they're trying to make here. But the plan is sound. I think it's off to a solid start. And whatever happens at the draft lottery and whatever happens at the draft, you're about to add your top prospect, right? Like, whoever they get at 1 through 5 is going to automatically be the number one guy in the system here. And the dudes we talked to yesterday, Kevin Korchinski, Colton Dock, Nolan Allen, these guys are on the horizon too. And you got Frank Nazar with Michigan. Like, there are so many things to be excited about. And God, most of them aren't even here yet. But all the little bit of concern we had about Lucas Reichel, well, maybe this is not, I think we all had a little bit of a doubt about, because he hadn't really established himself yet. But now, especially lately, I said before you jumped on, Greg, he has been consistently the best Blackhawk on the ice, and it's obvious, right? The speed and the hands and the skill and everything, and now the hockey sense and the NHL sense is coming along with that game. And again, that is a testament to not just the Chicago coaching staff, but the Rockford coaching staff and all the development coaches that this organization has hired. They're taking player development seriously, honestly, maybe for the first time in our lifetimes. They did a lot of good things when Rocky took over and John McDonough came in, and they revamped and they kind of grew the organization on the business side. And they just so happen to have all these great players too that they were willing to pay for. Now is the real hockey challenge of, all right, the dynasty's over. We got to start from scratch. How do we do this? And they're doing it right. Mm-hmm. Whether or not it pays off, again, we don't know. But I don't know anyone who can look at what they're doing with an open mind and say what they're doing is wrong. This is the only way to do it. Kyle Davidson has been, I don't know if the word is ruthless or fearless or whatever word you want to use, but his willingness to be unpopular and make unpopular moves has been the right thing to do. And it's tough. It's tough to do what he's doing, to trade DeBrincat and Doc and then Patrick effing Kane, to have the stones to pull that off. I don't know, the fact that he's willing to do it, it just gives me a lot of faith in the whole thing. So maybe it's just me being the optimist that I usually am, but I don't know. I as the season is winding down, I just feel myself feeling very positive about things.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think, you look at what the prospects that were brought in the 2022 draft class this last summer, what they've done already in their year after being drafted, like there's a lot of cause for excitement. So kind of for the first go of Kyle Davidson and his scouting staff, pretty darn good.
Yeah.
So it makes you excited for not only the first pick that they make in this summer's draft class, but all the other dozens of picks that they have over the next handful of years, because you already have like this sample of like, hey, they've made some really good picks so far with early returns. What's to say that they won't do the same thing again? Well, and that one draft class boosted them 20 spots in their draft rankings according to The Athletic. 25-5.
And remember, earlier this year we went out to Notre Dame. That was November, super early in the year. Talked to Ryder Ralston. We weren't sure we were gonna, and he gave us this absolute golden nugget of the Hawks development system is wonderful. I love them. They're great for me. They're way better than Colorado was when I was there. Fast forward to yesterday, we talked to 3 of the most important Hawks prospects, and all of them rave about the Blackhawks development staff, and every resource they need is there for them. Mm-hmm. And like those guys are excited to be Blackhawks. You could hear from all 3 of those guys, Korchinski and Doc and Allen, just chomping at the bit to get here, and knowing that it's close, knowing that all 3 of those guys are probably at the most 2 years away from having legitimate shots in the NHL. Like, I don't know how you can look at this thing unless you're like the world's biggest cynic and not be excited about the next few years ahead. Seriously, I'm excited as hell about this. I really am. It's like when the Cubs started, like the first piece of that was
their guys.
They got Rizzo, and you're like, all right, like this guy could turn into something. Then you see like the grainy cell phone videos of Chris Bryant just hitting bombs at like an empty ballpark, and Javier Baez making these sparkling plays. You're like, all right. And then these guys jump up. Like Wilson Contreras was a name you heard, but he homers in his first at bat, and then he becomes an all-star. It's like, oh my God, everything's coming up Cubs, and hopefully that it follows the same path for the Hawks. I don't know. It's an exciting time.
Yeah.
And this is what being a fan is about, right? Like, it's really easy to jump on the bandwagon and enjoy things when they're good, but what makes you feel great when you reach the pinnacle and when you win that championship is the fact that you can look back on this year and look back at our document of Remember When and say, God, look at how far this team has come. And I can't wait for that. Even if it's not a cup, if it's a Western Conference final loss, still, it's like, damn, they got there from absolute zero.
Yeah.
From
completely changing everything. Getting rid of your top guys and building back from the prospects up. Like, that would be, that journey is going to, we're on it. And getting back to that point is going to be a lot of fun.
Are you getting the boot? I see you looking over your shoulder.
No, there's just some commotions. I don't know. Not my problem.
All right. Well, why don't we do the 4 stars of the game, and then we'll spring you anyway.
All right. That sounds good.
All right.
I still got packing to do.
The 3 stars of the game, number 3 star for the St. Louis Blues, Jacob Vrana. He had a goal, was a +2, 1750 of ice time, 3 shots on goal, 4 more shot attempts. Really solid game from him.
Helped my fantasy team.
Number 2 star, number 20 in your hearts, number 1 in your programs, or vice versa. Brandon Saad with a goal and assist. He was a +2, 2 shots on goal, 2 more shot attempts, 3 takeaways, and a block shot. Yep, that sounds like Brandon Saad.
Man shot.
And your number 1 star, Jordan Kyrou. He's good. He had a goal, 1657 of ice time, 5 shots on goal, 4 more shot attempts, and a hit. He was very, very solid. My 4 star of the game is going to go to Lucas Reichel. Had an assist, was a -3 in this one. Oof. One was an empty netter, though. 2 shots on goal, 3 more shot attempts. Took 2 faceoffs and won one of them. So good for him. Just missed tying the game, but the shot was blocked at the end. And there you have it. But just another really solid game. Very noticeable. And again, 18:34 of ice time for Reichel, including 3:58 on the power play. The kid just keeps impressing. And I know he's going to be Rockford bound sooner than later here. But, man, I'm going to enjoy every shift he plays up at the NHL level this year. And then look forward to next season when he's here, 82 games plus. Not plus. 82 games. There will be no plus next year.
Yeah. No, yeah. I mean, he's noticeable every night, and that's what you want to see. And yeah, take what he's doing in the NHL and take that with him to Rockford when he goes back for the playoff push, and that's going to be exciting to watch. Hopefully, a long playoff run for the Ice Hogs.
Yep, that would be great. There's been a lot of games this season, including the last game against Dallas, where the three of us has looked around at each other and said, who the hell are we picking for our 4th star? There's nobody stood out. Tonight was a tough one. There were a lot of guys that deserve to be mentioned in this segment, but I'm going to go with Austin Wagner, who we talked about earlier. An impressive first game, kind of the spirit of this segment is to give the guy that may not, blow your mind on the score sheet, but just the way he played. But 4 shots on goal in just 11 minutes, playing on 4th line, that's a pretty impressive stat line there. So will be intriguing to see what we get out of him over the last 7 games of the season.
Yeah, his first impression is the speed stood out. So hopefully some more of that from Wagner would be good to see. Speaking of speed, my 4th star of the night is Andreas Athanasiou. He was all over the ice tonight. He did score 1 goal in a very non-Andreas Athanasiou style. His feet were planted. He was not moving, but he was able to score that goal there. It was a -2. 4 shots on goal, 1 hit, 2 takeaways, also 2 giveaways, so he evens out there. 44% from the dot in 18 minutes and 45 seconds of ice time. He has been exactly as advertised all season. There were a number of times tonight where, again, the speed stood out. He was taking the puck to the net, and there was one rush that stood out where he got past the guy, then used his hands to get past another, and then lost the handle of the puck and lost control. Kind of lost the scoring chance as it were, and it was just like, well. I said to Greg, I was like, that's exactly what he's done all season. That the speed stands out, and then there's just nothing at the other end of things. And then he goes and scores the goal on the power play, just standing there. So it's just like his hands need his feet not to be moving for it to be effective, and his feet are the most effective thing. He's one very interesting player.
Yes, he definitely keeps things. He's like the Alex Stalock of forwards. He may not always succeed, but it's fun to watch him.
It's an experience, yeah.
Yeah.
The way I described it, Greg and I were talking about it, the way I described it is Athanasiou is what Connor McDavid would have been if he was a bust. Like, all that speed's there.
That's high praise.
But really nothing else.
I think Athanasiou would be like, okay, cool, I'll take that.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
It was like the pros of Andreas Athanasiou is he's the fastest guy on your team. The cons is he can only score when he's standing still.
Yeah,
that's what we saw tonight. So, but another good game for him. He's been very effective since the trade deadline, and that's what you wanted to see out of a guy like that. He's been getting an elevated look, and make the most of it. And we'll see what happens after the season.
All right, Greg. Thanks, man. We appreciate your time. Good luck with the move tomorrow. T's and P's headed your way.
Yeah, I'm going to need all the emotional support I can get over the next 36 hours. But I will see you boys here on Saturday for Devils.
Hawks Devils.
Devils, yeah.
Should be fun.
Jack Hughes,
Should be good. Looking forward to seeing the Devils. And hopefully another tank win.
We'll be with you tomorrow in spirit.
Yep.
But I don't know if the spirit will help you lift anything.
I'm paying professionals, man. I'm using the CHGO funds to. I'm not lifting a damn thing. I'm too old for that.
All right, man. Good
All
luck.
right, boys. Talk to you
We'll
Saturday.
talk to you Saturday.
Yep.
That is Greg Boysen from United Center. Follow him on Twitter at Greg Boysen. Before we give our DraftKings King of the Game, we do have a super chat to pay off from our buddy Lebowski5. And I think he said something along the lines of complimenting our podcast yesterday.
Yeah.
There it is. He says, props for the awesome interview yesterday. Did any answer surprise you? I was surprised that Doc had Reichel in such high regard. That was a little bit surprising. Not that I'm surprised that he likes Reichel, but yeah, he was had a lot of praise for him. Mm-hmm. And the other thing that stood out too was how much they all enjoyed Connor Bedard off the ice.
Yeah.
We actually made a clip of that. If you head to the CHGO YouTube, where you are now, wait till the show's over to check it out. But we made a little video of them all commenting about playing with Connor Bedard, and that was really cool too. The other thing is that Kevin Korchinski is apparently going to abandon number 55.
Yeah.
Which he wore in the preseason for number 14, and it dawned on none of us that number was taken by Boris Kachuk. But I'm sure if Kevin Korchinski wants it, he can get it.
Maybe.
You can buy the guy a Rolex or something and call it a day.
Might have to wait till his second contract to get a Rolex, but
could be.
Maybe a full X or something.
There you go. A fossil.
Yeah. I mean, it was great talking with those guys. I think what stood out to me was just kind of the when they were talking about what the Blackhawks do in their communication and their development, and maybe this is something that most teams do with their prospects. I'm not certain, but they really had high praise for the Blackhawks, kind of going out of their way to show them, work with them using video while they're in Seattle.
Yeah,
it's not, and I think that is something that I think is a great sign for the Blackhawks, showing like the investment in what they want to do, what they want to have their prospects do, and what they want them working on while they're still developing in juniors and stuff. And I think I think back to when Brian Campbell first joined the organization. He was kind of just like a player development advisor, but he was like specifically assigned to like making Adam Boquist a thing
that guy specifically
in juniors. So yeah, I mean it seems like the Blackhawks are kind of investing in doing that, but maybe with a little bit more of a not just focusing on make sure Adam Boquist becomes a guy.
Yeah.
It's hey,
let's make a lot of guys.
Let's make sure a lot of these guys, a lot of these kids turn into guys. So that would be something that stood out. And also, we asked them, about Luke Richardson, and they haven't had a lot of experience with him. But what stood out is we all know that Richardson loves breaking down the game, X's and O's, video work, all of that stuff. What stood out was that when Colton Dock was in prospect camp, he missed time because he had. He was dealing with concussions at the time. Maybe it was training camp. It might have been training camp because he was in prospect camp. So I think it was training camp. So he wasn't going through everything on the ice, but Richardson still, to him aside, was explaining everything that they were doing, all the systems they were working on, what they wanted to do, X's and O's, breaking down like the stuff that they were trying to implement. He was still bringing that to the player who wasn't on the ice. So I thought that stood out that, even the prospects in training camp were still getting that attention from Richardson and being able to, not just say like, oh, well, he's just a kid, he's hurt, we can't use him. It was still making sure like, hey, we want you to be on the same page that we all are on. Yeah. So I think that was a really good kind of insight from Colton and again, just kind of another good feather in the cap for Richardson.
One other thing, too, that, stood out as they commented on the development thing is, as hard as we've all been on Hawks ownership and management this week, and rightfully so, it seems as if they're giving hockey ops every resource they need to make things work. The fact that Jeff Greenberg was an interview candidate to be the Hawks GM, they gave the job to Kyle Davidson, and then Kyle Davidson was allowed to hire Jeff Greenberg. I hate to keep going back to the Cubs, but they hired Theo Epstein and Jed Hoyer. Yeah. Right? Like, that stuff matters to get a lot of great minds in there. And we have not even – Jeff Greenberg was basically tasked with developing a system, like a physical system of analysis from the ground up for the Hawks, which you can assume it's not done yet. Yeah. Right? that's probably still in the works. So that's going to add another element to their development. They seem to have every resource they need. Kyle Davidson has every resource he needs to help develop these players. Because you're right, Brian Campbell, go take care of Adam Boquist. That's all fine and good. But what about every other prospect you have?
Right.
Right now, all these guys are getting the resources they need. They're all getting the resources to develop. And look, nothing is guaranteed, of course, but the more of these resources you give and the more of these resources you have, the better of a chance you're giving yourself at having these guys develop. You can't look at the end of the day, you can't look and say, well, if only we had more, if only we could have done more for this guy, maybe he could have been a better player. They don't have that. Now it's up to the player to take advantage of those resources and do the development part that they can control as well. All right, let's go to our DraftKings King of the Game. And remember, we're going to do our tank standings and our tank spins. We've got one in the bank. We've got 60 likes right now. Let's get to 70 likes, and we'll get a bonus spin in there. So 10 more likes for a third spin at Tankathon. But right now, it is time for the DraftKings King of the Game. And it's going to go to number 90, Tyler Johnson. He had 1 assist, 4 shots on goal. Just a really solid game for him. He also had a goal in this one, 19:59 of ice time, 4 shots, 6 more shot attempts rather. Really, really solid game for Tyler Johnson. A goal, an assist, 8 shots, attempts. Excellent, excellent game.
1 second short of 20 minutes of ice time.
Yeah, outstanding. Great game for Tyler Johnson. Really glad to see him finally getting rewarded with points on the board. Mm-hmm. And speaking of DraftKings, and speaking of the King of the Game, reminder that DraftKings is the official betting partner of CHGO and All City. They've got those no-sweat NBA same-game parlays. Major League Baseball has begun. It was a glorious day in Chicago with the Cubs beating the Brewers and the White Sox beating the Astros in Houston. The Astros had won 10 straight opening day games, and the Sox broke that streak.
We got them.
I got all my preseason bets in. I got Aaron Judge plus 500 to be the home run leader. Love that bet. That feels like free money. So download the app now and sign up with the code CHGO. New customers can bet $5 and get $200 in bonus bets instantly only at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NBA with code CHGO. Minimum age and eligibility restrictions apply. See the show notes for details. And as it's show 4, that means it's time for the DraftKings Pick of the Week. March Madness is here. If you missed it, here's what we're going to do.
It's almost gone.
Jump into your DraftKings app. Towards the top, you're going to see that March Madness tab. Click on that, and they've got a bunch of quick parlays at the top. There's one called Sun Keeps Shining. You bet the 2 Florida schools to meet in the national championship game. So Florida Atlantic to win and Miami to win. That's plus 601. That's a big payout. All right, so you throw $5 down on that one at plus 601. You're going to do pretty damn well for yourself. That is our DraftKings Pick of the Week.
Go Florida schools.
Yeah, go Florida. Go Florida men.
Hey, if you hit on that FAU Miami parlay bet, that's going to be putting a lot of money right into your pocket. Well, kind of in a DraftKings account, but into your pocket figuratively. Another way to put money back into your pocket is to save on your energy bills and be more efficient. Saving energy and saving money, that is what ComEd is all about, and their energy efficiency program, which is committed to helping families and businesses in the communities they serve manage energy usage and lower energy bills now and into the future. Did you have something to say?
Nope.
Oh, I thought you had something to say. ComEd offers a wide array of other incentives on lighting and efficiency upgrades to commercial, industrial, and public sector customers of all sizes across their territories. Customers can inquire about how to upgrade outdated lighting to energy and money-saving efficient LED lights. Learn more about network lighting to operate your lights through your mobile device and track your facility's energy usage and more. Incentives have recently increased for indoor, outdoor lighting, and networked lighting controls, making these projects even more cost-effective than before. So visit them at comed.com/poweringbiz, that is B-I-Z, right now to start saving money and energy.
All right, the time has come, and this is the one you've all been waiting for. Let's update the tank standings.
Yes.
At long last, my friends, we have made it. Your Chicago Blackhawks are on top of the tank standings
Once again.
with 54 points in 75 games. Now, Columbus has 54 points, but in 74 games.
Mm-hmm.
So the Hawks are technically, mathematically worse. Anaheim with 56 points in 74 games, and Montreal with 66 in 76. By the way, at last check, the San Jose Sharks are leading right now. That is good news.
They're leading the Vegas Golden Knights 3-2 into the second intermission. A combined 20 shots on goal between those two teams in 2 periods.
That's a lot of fun.
But 5 goals.
And the Ducks trailing the Kraken with 10 minutes to go in the third period. So there you have it. As of this moment, the Blackhawks are the worst team in hockey, which is what we've all wanted all year long. Congratulations, we made it. Now, we made our goal of 70 likes, so we've got 3 spins at the Tankathon wheel. Sarah, pull up tankathon.com, and let's give that wheel a spin.
Let's see. One spin. One spin!
Oh, that's it!
Woo!
The Hawks win. Chicago, Philly, Columbus, San Jose, Anaheim. There's your top 5. So we have
2 spins
Two
banked.
spins banked.
All right.
For Saturday night already. So a minimum 3 spins coming at you.
Oh, yeah.
Saturday after Hawks Devils, and the Hawks will certainly lose that game.
Oh. Whoa.
That one feels like
Let's not trap game this
oh
one.
my goodness gracious.
Let's please not trap game
That
this
one's
one.
going to be, hey, you know what though? It's going to be fun to watch. The Devils are super fun to watch.
They are.
And a good, young, fast team. And I wrote about it in my Blackhawks beat when I did my week ahead thing. If you're looking for kind of a carrot, you look at how bad it's been for the Devils for so long, and now finally you're really starting to see them achieve what people thought. Everyone sort of thought last year was going to be their first big jump.
Yeah.
It was a year delayed, but man, they are solid. They are, I don't know if they're cup contenders yet, but maybe, just maybe, if you squint real hard,
They could make some noise.
they've got to get past some of those Eastern Conference powerhouses like Toronto and Boston and Tampa. But hey,
Is their
it's going to be
first
fun to watch.
their first round matchup
Should be the Rangers.
is Rangers.
That is gonna
currently,
be
right. Oof, that'd be a lot
super
of fun.
fun.
That's a lot of fun.
Super fun.
It's a good rivalry, a lot of great players.
Yeah, and if it didn't help the Hawks for the Rangers to advance, I would certainly be rooting for the Devils in that series. So
Yeah.
anyway, we will talk to y'all after Saturday's game. We are off tomorrow. If you miss us tomorrow, go back, and if you missed it, listen to our interview with Korchinski, Doc, and Nolan Allen. It was really, really great stuff. And we spent the first half of the show talking about Jonathan Taves. So that was fun and worthwhile to hear, too. It wasn't fun, but it was worthwhile. So give that a listen. And one final reminder, we are presented by DraftKings Sportsbook, America's top-rated sportsbook. Download the app and use promo code CHGO when you sign up. Thanks to Sarah for running the show today on a very busy day at CHGO. We'll talk to you Saturday night on the CHGO Blackhawks Podcast.